Hi all, welcome to Beanie Composter. It's now March 2025 and spring is just coming through, sun is shining, you're probably out in your garden, and if you don't have a Hotbin composter you might be thinking about purchasing one. So this video is going to tell you the main reasons I think people give up with the Hotbin composter once they get one, and also just before they purchase one. We've had our hot bins now for years and they've really done well, so no regrets for me. But it's March 2025 now, and if you are looking to purchase a new hot bin, how much are you going to have to fork out? Now on the Hotbin website, the official one, a mini is going to set you back £190, whereas the 200 litre one is going to set you back a whopping £255. Now to me that sounds like big money, and there are other alternatives you can do if that is too much for you. So we've got a video online which shows you how to purchase a second-hand one, things to look out for, and it just gives you a bit of a guide. Now I bought this one brand new from the Hotbin composting company, but the mini Mrs. B got second hand for my birthday, and that was reduced, and it was also brand new. So there are alternatives that you can do if you want to get a hot bin. What I'm saying is the price is probably the first thing that would put people off from purchasing a hot bin. If you are lucky enough to get yourself a hot bin, I think the next biggest thing that puts people off is the fact that they can't get their hot bin hot from start, or they get it hot and then after a little while it just keeps going cold again. Now I'm not adverse to having the hot bin hot all the time. At the moment the hot bin's gone cold. A week ago it was hot and we're having some real harsh frosts over in Surrey for once, and if we have a look, even mine's not even hot. I did give it a feed, so have a look what's happening to ours. We're not even near the green at the moment, but a week ago we were mid-green, so that's how quick things can change with a hot bin. Now I've said it a million times, the hot bin can be very frustrating. You know, for some uncanny reason it can just either go hot or it can go cold, so that's one thing you've got to just bear in mind when you purchase one. It's quite misleading when you read some of the stuff on the Hotbin composting website that it just works in snow and things like that. Now it can, but it does take a lot of effort. So I think the biggest reason people get put off is the fact that it just takes a lot of effort and they don't get it hot, or it just keeps going cold after they've got it hot. The next thing that I think puts people off from the hot bin is the fact that you need to add wood chippings, or bulking agent as they call it, and shredded paper or cardboard into the hot bin to basically give it a good airflow and to stop it from getting too wet and going anaerobic. So when you purchase your hot bin, it's going to probably come with a bag of wood chippings unless you get a second hand one. That will run out quite quickly, so what I'm saying is you need to do a little bit of research into how to get extra wood chippings and whether your garden's going to produce any. Now we've got a video online that explains all this, so you can have a look at that, but it's a good idea to keep that in mind when you are purchasing the hot bin, that you will need a continuous amount of wood chippings all throughout the year. Now with shredded paper and cardboard, this can also be problematic for some people in terms of you need to have a good source of paper coming in. I'm quite alright because Mrs. B is constantly ordering stuff from Amazon, and it just keeps, you know, I have box after box to tear up, but that can also become a bit monotonous after a while, and I think if you've owned the hot bin for quite some time, that can start to sort of just irritate you. And as I've said before, the hot bin can take a lot of time out of someone's schedule, so you need to be able to source paper or cardboard that you're going to put into your hot bin. As I say, this is about keeping your hot bin from getting too wet so it doesn't turn anaerobic, and this is also going to be essential all year round for your hot bin. If you've bought your hot bin in springtime like it is now, then you're probably going to have quite a bit of waste, especially in your garden, and throughout summer you're going to have no issues in keeping that hot bin going. But when it comes to autumn, winter, then that might change a little bit. You're not going to have so much waste in your garden, and even if there's only a couple of you or just one of you in the house, the kitchen caddy waste might become quite small in terms of wastage. So that's another thing I think can put people off with the hot bin. They just don't produce enough waste to warrant keeping it going or putting the effort into it. So if that is an issue, then you can always ask neighbours or friends if they've got waste, but it's another thing to consider. And I think when you see some hot bins online that are being sold second hand, maybe the person has moved house into a smaller property and they just don't feel there's enough waste to go into the hot bin. So if you are purchasing the hot bin, make sure you sort of are going to have enough waste to keep it hot. Now, to keep the hot bin hot, you need to keep adding waste weekly, so it can't be a case of you're just going to add waste once a month or whenever you've got some, because you could do that, but you're not going to keep your hot bin hot, so you'd be better off just having a cold composter if you're going to do that. So that's another one. Just make sure you research that you're going to have enough waste to keep your hot bin hot. We've had this hot bin, like I've said, for many years, and it's always sat in this position, and I've been quite fortunate, to be honest, with the fact that, number one, it's maintained everything. Even the aeration mesh plate at the bottom is still as good as probably the day we got it, and all the other stuff has just still worked fine. And also, we've never had any damage to the hot bin here, so we've not had cats scratching it, we've not had foxes ripping bits off. But that's not been the case at my mum's, where we've had the Mini. That got damaged quite badly last year, and we put some photos of not just our hot bin but some other stuff that's happened. And that's another thing I think puts people off, is they can get the hot bin, and then, well, we've had it with the Mini where the aeration mesh bit of metal just disintegrates, and you've got to keep buying new bits every year, which isn't great. And also, things can get damaged, like a cat can use it as a clawing thing, or a fox can just eat the cam straps, which happened at my mum's, and you've got to purchase new things. So that's another thing I think can put people off, is the hot bin isn't as durable as maybe just a cold composting bin. It can get damaged quite easily if you're not careful. Another big reason I think that puts people off the hot bin is, well, they get the hot bin hot, they put all their waste into it, and then maybe 90 days, 3 months later, they take the hatch off to take their hot bin compost out, and they're disappointed that the hot bin composter isn't making compost like you would buy in a DIY shop, so, or a nursery. So that's another reason I think people get put off with after a while, is the compost just isn't what they were expecting to produce. This is the compost that has just recently come out of our hot bin. I'm happy with it, and I'm sure most people would be, but as I've said at the beginning of the video, you need to put bulking agent into your hot bin for aeration, and you are going to find in your compost that it's going to have lots of woody sticks in there still. That's not going to break down on the process, so that's one thing to consider. if you want better quality compost, you're going to have to sieve this, so that's going to take you time and effort again. But like I say, for me it's worth it, but it just might be too much for some people. So that's another reason I think people get put off. They're just not producing the quality of compost that they were expecting when they first bought the Hotbin. Another thing that may put people off the Hotbin is you've got to cut up your waste quite small. So like, you can't just put apples in their whole. You need to really cut them up to help with the digestion and the bacteria within the Hotbin. And things like, you know, today we're cutting up a load of brambles and bushes and stuff like that, but it needs to be cut up small. You can't just put them in and expect them to break down. So that's another thing to consider when you're putting waste into your Hotbin. You've got to cut it up small. And if you are putting garden waste into the Hotbin, you can't just put a clump of grass into the Hotbin with a load of soil on it. All that needs to be almost taken off, because that blocks up the airways in the Hotbin and makes it go cold. So there are a few things that you need to do with a Hotbin that you perhaps wouldn't do with a cold composting bin. So that could be another reason why you get put off after a while. It just takes a lot of time and effort. Now, with a Hotbin composter, to maintain the temperature, you must feed it weekly, but also you mustn't feed it, overfeed it. So that could be another thing that puts people off. You buy a Hotbin, but then you end up accumulating so much waste that can't go into the Hotbin that it just puts you off, because your shed is just full of waste waiting to go in the Hotbin. So consider that when you are purchasing a Hotbin. You can't just keep putting waste into it continuously, day after day after day, or even in one sort of go. You can't just put a load of waste in. It's got to be almost measured and almost the right amount to go into it for the Hotbin to manage. So that's another thing. You just might end up with so much waste that you just think, I might as well just keep me council garden waste, or I might just put it into like a normal coal bin. On this video, I've told you about all the things that can put people off about having a Hotbin, or what just puts people off once they get one. And I think one of the other things is just time. Now, if you've got a busy schedule and you don't have a lot of time, then that might just put you off, because owning a Hotbin is almost, like I've said before, like owning a pet. You know, it takes a lot of time and dedication to keep it hot and to keep it maintaining the temperatures that you need. So that's the other factor that I would say puts people off, is time. So if you are thinking of purchasing a Hotbin, make sure you've got the time, do a bit of research. Now, I know thousands of people have looked at our Hotbin composter review, and that's a good place to start if you are thinking to get a Hotbin. But this video is just sort of showing you like what I think are the reasons why people get put off with a Hotbin after owning one, just through their own experiences. Now, there is one last reason why you may get put off by owning a Hotbin, and this is down to Mrs. B to tell you this one. So it's over to Mrs. B.
Well, if they get the Hotbin, you may never see them again. Or, first thing they do when they come back from work is not, honey, I'm home, or how was your day, sweetheart? Forget it. First thing, they drop the stuff, go and check on the Hotbin, and then, God forbid there is a problem, this needs to be solved first. You can always know if the Hotbin is working or not. If your other half is in a good mood, the Hotbin is hot. If your other half is busy, never has time, is barking, well, the Hotbin is cold.
We're not divorced yet, thank God, but the Hotbin's fitted into our life pretty well, and that could fit into your life pretty well as well. But these are just some points to sort of guide you through even if you get a hot bin, what, maybe 6 months, a year down the line, you might encounter becoming a bit of a problem. So, like I say, do your research first, and even if things do go wrong, don't get put off. There's always our channel that will help you out. So, until next time, happy composting and enjoy.